Hi everyone, Mikey79 here and welcome to this new deck video of Magic Duels. And as you guys can see, the deck that I have for you today is a Orzhov control deck. It's not the Aura deck that I've built it before. I already showed some videos of an Orzhov Aura deck. But this is a control deck, so let's check it out right away. We begin with Ayli and Eternal Pilgrim. For 2 mana we get a 2-3 with some very decent abilities. It's still a very good creature. 2-3 is a great body to defend with the early game for that mana cost. Yeah, awesome. She also got Death Touch, so late in the game it's still a decent blocker. And she got some nice abilities. We can sacrifice another creature and gain life equal to its toughness, or we can sacrifice a creature and exile a target non-land permanent. But that last ability we have to have 10 life more than our starting life total. So in this case, most of the time it will be 30 unless you play 2-8 Giant. Then we go to Brain in a Jar. For 2 mana we get an artifact. Yeah, I played the Dynavolt first in this deck, but I wasn't too happy with it. It didn't trigger enough. I didn't have enough energy counters to abuse it enough to my taste, so I took Brain in a Jar. It does something completely different, of course, but it is still a decent card, and I played for the Scry actually. The first ability, we get to put a charge counter on it, and then we can cast an instant or sorcery with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on it, on Brain in a Jar, but it has to be the exact amount. So if we got 4 charge counters on it, we can't play something with 2 or 3 converted mana cost. It has to be 4 as well. So that's a bit of a downside, but yeah, it's pretty decent. You can play something for free maybe. And the second ability, for 3 mana we can remove all those charge counters, or the amount that we want to, and we get to scry that amount. So that's pretty decent in a control deck. Then the Grasp of Darkness, 2 black, -4/-4 for a target creature, instant speed. Straightforward, decent card. Pretty good removal. Another good removal card, Declaration in Stone here. For 2 mana we get to exile target creature, and the downside is that our opponent gets a clue token that he can sack for 2 mana, which makes him draw a card. Now that's not a real downside, because usually you play this on a big fat creature or a problem and to get rid of it. And Ulamog is a very good example of that, because he still sees play, because yeah, it is a powerful creature and you need to deal with it, but because of the indestructible you need to have another solution for it. Then a new card of Kaladesh for 3 mana, a 2-3, Kambal, Consul of Allocation. Nice card. He is legendary, but we do play all 2 copies of him. And whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So when they try to spot remove him or wipe the board or whatever, then yeah, that triggers. So basically when you play him, you're almost always sure, unless you block with him and he dies, or you attack with him and he dies, you're almost certain that your opponent will lose 2 life at a certain moment and you gain 2 life. Pretty nice card. It's not the most powerful card in Magic Duels, but it is a nice card for its mana cost. Then a card that I like very much actually is a Filigree Familiar. For 3 colorless mana we get a 2-2, and when he enters the battlefield we get 2 life, and when he dies we get to draw a card. So that's some nice abilities for a control deck, and he is colorless, so you can put him in any deck, it doesn't matter. Yeah, pretty good creature for 3 mana. And look at that drawing, at that picture. It's a cute little thing. Then I play only 1 copy of it, but I do play it, Merciless Resolve. For 3 mana at instant speed we get to draw 2 cards, and the downside is that we have to sacrifice a creature or a land. That's the reason why I only play 1 of it. But of course when we sack this one, it's a great combo, because when this one dies we get to draw a card as well. So if we use this one to let them die, then we draw basically 3 cards, which is pretty neat. Then the Anguished Unmaking, still best spot removal in the game, at least that's my opinion. Instant speed, you can exile everything except the land, but you lose 3 life, but that's most of the time that's irrelevant. But 3 mana, pretty damn good card. And when you play these colors, you should always play that. Collective Effort, 3 mana too, but it has a bit different things, of course. 2 white, 1 colorless, and you get to choose what you want to do. You can destroy a target creature with power 4 or greater, destroy a target enchantment, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls. Now if you escalate, that means if you tap an untapped creature you control, you get to choose another of these possibilities. So it's possible to cast this and play all the abilities. That's a pretty strong effect. Then Liliana, the Last Hope, still a great planeswalker, especially for the mana cost. 3 mana. If you have her in your opening hand, your opponent is gonna have a tough time dealing with her. The +1 controls the board a bit. The -2 gets something back from your graveyard, and the -7 just swarms the board with zombies, and that's usually a game winner. Then also a new card from Kaladesh, Restoration Gearsmith for 4 mana, which is a nice cost for what it does. We get a 3/3, and when he gets onto the battlefield, we get to return target artifact or a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So basically this is a bit of a better version of a Gravedigger. I believe Gravedigger is 4 mana, 2 black. So the same mana cost, only a bit different color. And he is a 2/2, so this one is a bit stronger, and you can get also an artifact back, so more versatile. Nice card, and you can get this little fellow back, for example. It is a creature and an artifact, so it doesn't matter. Or you can get Brain in a Jar or something. Yeah, pretty good card. I like it. Then the Languish, yeah, we are a control deck, so we wanna wipe the board perhaps from time to time, so Languish does that great. Then another new card, at least for Magic Duels, is a Diabolic Tutor, and black was really in need for a tutor card, and we finally got it in this form of Diabolic Tutor. The downside on this card is that it is expensive for a tutor, so I do play Commander in my free time with the real card game, I mean the in-life card game, and there you play Demonic Tutor, and that's 2 mana, and that's pretty strong, but I guess they won't be reprinting that very soon, because that is maybe a little bit OP. But anyway, we do get a tutor. It is 4 mana, but we get to search our library for a card and put it into our hand. Doesn't matter which one it is, so we don't have to show it to our opponent. He doesn't see what we're going to get out of our library. And then we shuffled our library, and that's it. It's sorcery speed. Okay, it's decent. It's a tutor. We're glad we are having a tutor, so we're not complaining. It's a good card. It is expensive, so that's why I only play 1 copy of it. Then the Cataclysmic Gearhulk, for 5 mana we get a Gearhulk, obviously. And before Kaladesh was released and I saw this card, and I was like, meh. But now that I'm playing with it, it's actually a pretty decent card. It is a 4/5 body, which is already pretty good. He's got Vigilance, which is always a nice ability, and when he enters the battlefield, each player chooses an artifact, a creature, enchantment, and a planeswalker, and he sacrifices the rest of those types. Now the good thing on this one, I do not like Tragic Arrogance, for example. It's a card that I don't like, so I was thinking that I won't be liking this card neither, but I do like this one, and I will tell you why. When you play this card and you already have a creature on the board, and you play this one, he's an artifact, so that means you can point this one out as your artifact, the other creature as your creature, and you won't lose them. So you end up the board with 2 creatures. Now maybe your opponent has an artifact creature as well. It's entirely possible with this latest set. But most of the time maybe he doesn't, so he will wind up with 1 creature. So most of the time you will have board advantage, and that wasn't always the case with Tragic Arrogance. Tragic Arrogance didn't leave the board always in your advantage, and I have the feeling that this card does it, because it is a creature on its own. It's a creature, it's not a sorcery spell. So that is why I like this card. Then the Consul Flagship for 5 mana. We get a 6/5, but we have to crew it for 3. He's got flying, and whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks, it deals 3 damage to a creature or a planeswalker an opponent controls. Now the reason why I play this is because I don't have many solutions to planeswalkers, and this one keeps them in check. I can abuse it if they blow it up with the Gearsmith here. And the Gearsmith is also great because he's a 3/3, so I can get it back with the Gearsmith and I can crew it with the Gearsmith, so that's pretty awesome. Yeah, and the only other solution for planeswalkers that I have is the Anguished Unmaking, so that's not a lot of solutions, but the Flagship helps me keep them in check, so pretty nice card. Then the Tamiyo's Journal, 5 mana. You all know this one. I only play 1 copy because it's a legendary, and when it's already on the board, on the battlefield, and you draw the second one, that's a bit a dead draw. So at the beginning of our upkeep we get to investigate. That means that we get a clue token that we can sack for 2 mana and we draw a card, but it's also an artifact, and that's important later in this video. But when we sacrifice 3 clues, we get basically a Diabolic Tutor. Like you saw, we get to search our library for a card and put it into our hand. It can be any card. Then shuffle your library. Also a slow card, but when it's on the board and it stays on the battlefield, it's a pretty damn strong card. Then another board wipe, of course. Planar Outburst, 5 mana, wipe everything except lands, and we can awaken it from time to time. Then Ob Nixilis, still a very strong planeswalker, for 5 mana. We get to draw a card when we use his first ability. We get to destroy a target creature if we use his second ability, and his last ability, yeah, well, we are going to keep drawing cards, so is our opponent, so he's basically going to die. Then another new card, the Noxious Gearhulk for 6 mana. That's an expensive Gearhulk. We get a 5/4 with Menace. Menace is a nice ability. That means that only at least 2 creatures has to block this one. And when he enters the battlefield, you get to destroy another target creature and you gain life equal to its toughness. Now that's also a pretty important ability, especially in the control deck. You might need a life. Now the Menace and the second ability, that you can destroy a creature, works well together because, for example, if your opponent has only 2 creatures on the board, you blow one of them up, and next turn, if he doesn't play another creature, he can't block him because he's got Menace. So that's a nice... It's a well balanced card. It's well thought about. It's a good card. It's a damn good Gearhulk. Then the Marionette Master, also a new card. For 6 mana we get a 1/3, and now you're thinking, what the hell, 6 mana 1/3? That's not good. And at first sight it doesn't seem that good, but it is good. I will tell you why. It has Fabricate 3. That means when you get onto the battlefield, we get the choice. We get to put 3 +1/+1 counters on this creature, so he becomes a 4/6, or we get 3 1/1s artifacts, servo artifact creature tokens. And whenever an artifact we control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to this card's power. So what I normally do is I play this card and I put the counters on it, so it's a 4/6. Then even better, and it does happen quite often, it's not only occasionally, it happens often that I also play Tamiyo's Journal. Either did I draw it or I go search for it with the tutor, whatever. It is a combo that is realistic. he makes clues tokens that are artifacts. So every turn you can sack at least one artifact. You get to draw a card, but because an artifact dies, goes to your graveyard, this one triggers as well, and you do 4 damage automatically to your opponent. If you're also able to swing with this guy at your opponent, that's also another 4 damage, and that's 8 easy damage. That's pretty awesome. And if he starts blowing up your flagship or whatever, the Tamiyo's journal on its own, or your Gearhulks, then it triggers as well. So yeah, it is a pretty strong card. I like it a lot. Then also a very strong card is Sorin, still one of the most powerful planeswalkers. For 6 mana, he comes expensive, but you get great abilities, and I only use it to first abilities actually. The +1, yeah, it's card advantage and you do damage to your opponent, and the second one deals with planeswalkers or creatures and you gain life. So that's all you need. It says enough that you only use 2 abilities of a card. It says something about the power level of that card. The ultimate isn't that yeah, impressing. It's vulnerable. It's not a game-winning ultimate. If your opponent wipes the board, you're not going to win the game. So I only use the first 2 abilities. Then for the mana, I play 7 plains, 8 mountains, 2 Shambling Vents, 2 Isolated Chapels, and 1 Inventor Sphere. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes I do have 3 artifacts, so it is worth it. And then I also play the Forsaken Sanctuary, all 4 copies, because I didn't want to play the Evolving Wilds in this deck. I do want to keep getting land traps, and I don't draw that many cards, so yeah, I don't want to miss a land trap. And thin the deck out with Evolving Wilds is a risk that I don't get any land anymore at a certain moment. So yeah, that's it for the deck. Let's check out the curve real fast. So we see we don't have any 1-drops, we do have some 2-drops. We curve out at 3 and then we go down a bit. Yeah, it is a slow deck, obviously it's control, so the 2 and the 3 mana cost cards are mostly removal. And yeah, we just want to prolong the game, make the game a bit go longer and win with our fatties or our big planeswalkers. So that's the deck for you guys. I hope you like it and check it out, and I hope I see you guys at the gameplay video, of course. See you guys there. Bye bye guys, have a nice day.